if there is an offer that comes in during that time. If one comes in during that time and there's an issue, you can file your motion. We will try to schedule it as quickly as possible. We may only be able to put it in for a half-hour block because our schedule is packed, but we want to get a motion like that heard as soon as possible. So,
Your Honor, here's my issue with that. When Roxana had the listing, she told Wendy that she wanted to reduce the price to sell it. Wendy refused. If there is a substantial difference between the price that Roxana felt she could get last year and the price that any realtor, Miss McCann, chooses now, can Wendy be held accountable for the difference, seeing as she has done nothing between then and now to try and sell the property?
Your Honor, that's a misrepresentation of the facts.
Okay, Ms. Durkee, no, because market conditions can change, and that could make a big difference as to what it can be sold for. Right now, the price of mortgages is considerably higher than it was when we started to sell this property. It went up again, and it's gone down a little bit, but it's not very good in the economy. God knows what's happening with the economy.
I think you're missing my point, Your Honor. Why has it not been listed all along?
The court thought it had been relisted and is disappointed that it wasn't.
But that's not my question, Your Honor.
It was your motion, Ms. Packard, not to allow it to go to auction, and I granted your motion. So
because they were only planning, they said the last time it went to auction, it only went for $1.
Right, it probably went for past due taxes or something like that. And I think we all believe it's worth more than $1. The question, of course, is what is it worth? And it's worth what a willing buyer will pay a willing seller. So you have to get the seller up. If somebody offers $44,000 because that's the listed price and somebody objects, we're going to hold a hearing on why that would be reasonable. The court would likely think it's probably not quite reasonable.
Okay, then I would like
to... But if somebody orders... Ms. Packard, please don't interrupt me. If somebody offers $75,000 instead of $80,000, that might be a very reasonable offer given the circumstances. So at the time an offer is made, I would want to hear some testimony, likely from the realtor, as to why that's a reasonable offer. And anybody can object or bring in a witness to show why it is not reasonable. But any objections, you'll have more than a week's notice of the hearing. Any objection or documents that are going to be filed have to be filed that week before.
Okay, then I would like to propose January Pete be the realtor. January Stearns.
I don't know who any of these people are except for Ms. Emelo, but...
she's out of Middlebury as well. She's been doing this for 25, 35 years, I believe. She works with one of the Fosters out of Middlebury.
You mean like Nancy Foster?
Nancy Foster, there we go. She works with Nancy Foster.
What I'm going to say is Ms. McCann determines who it is. She can look into the names that you've suggested. Remember, you're objecting to her fees, and the more things you give her to do, the likely the higher her fees are.
I'm not objecting to her fees.
Maybe she can delegate some of this. Maybe she can delegate some of this to a staff member, but, you're asking her to investigate various people. I'm not going to tell her who to hire. That's not appropriate for me to do. So I have noted that you've got in January somebody.
Stearns.
It may depend on what the, what the Realtors Commission would be too, because I am aware now that Realtors Commissions have come down a little bit since last year, because there was a nationwide settlement on about the amount of standard Realtors Commission. On the other hand, this piece of property is not a standard property to sell. So,
Your Honor, if I may, I'm sorry.
Ms. McCann, I'll leave it up to you.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to point out that Commission on Raw Land, and I think this would be considered raw land since there's no house really on the property, is 10%.
Well, standard was 10%. Maybe you can negotiate that down somewhat.
What is the name of the realtor she wants to use?
Rhonda Nash.
How do you know her?
She was hired on another estate to handle a manufactured home.
This isn't a home, though, you said.
I'm sorry?
But you said that you guys just said it's not a home.
Okay, it's not a discussion between Ms. Packard and Ms. McCann. I've assigned it to Ms. McCann. So let's move on to the accounting. So the beginning of the accounting, Ms. Durkee, has to be the inventory amount. And so no objection will be granted as to that. I know you've had some objections to the inventory in the past. I believe the court has ruled on them. So let's take up the other aspects.
You just said Ms. Durkee instead of
I'm sorry, Ms. Packard. Oops. I think I have it already open here.
Your Honor, Rhonda Nash isn't even in Addison County. She's in Wallingford. Travel alone would make it unreasonable to have her be the one to do it.
Well, usually real estate agents don't charge for travel.
Still, she doesn't know the area. Normally, it's you have a realtor that's in the county that you're working in.
And a lot of Addison and Rutland realtors.
Packard, I have assigned this to Ms. McCann to make the decision. We're not going to have any further discussion about that issue. Let's go to the summary of account. And I have printed out most of your objections, Ms. Packard, to the account. It seems to me the big ones, aside from the, what should be included as assets at the beginning, you object to Ms. Durkee's, your sister's fees, you object to Ms. McCann's fees, you object to Mr. Scoville's fees, and you object, you're still arguing over the gun which has been sold. So the gun has been sold and the court has approved that sale, and no further discussion will be held on that.
Where's the receipt? Your Honor, that's what I want to know. Where's the receipt for the gun?
Receipts
been filed.
The court has in its discretion. Excuse me, I really appreciate it if people do not object or do not interrupt the court. And that goes for everybody. If you want to speak, raise your hand, or, Ms. Durkee, unfortunately are you totally unable to appear by WebEx video?
Yeah, I barely got my audio up. I don't know what's going on with mine. Like I said, I had to reinstall it just to get the audio up.
All right. Well, if somebody else is speaking, please don't interrupt. It's harder if I can see your sister if she raises her hand. I can see Ms. McCann if she raises her hand. So I'd appreciate if people don't interrupt. I'm trying to focus on the primary things that you objected to, Ms. Packard. So I will say to Ms. Packard, it is up to the court's discretion whether receipts are required. We have heard a great deal about the gun. I believe the receipt has been required, but it would not show up in the assets. It would show up in the expenditures page. It would show up in Schedule A, six. Which shows the gun at $100. The court is not going to require a receipt to be filed for the gun.
Why not, if I might ask?
The court has no reason to believe that anybody is telling the truth or not telling the truth about the gun.
I think you had it right.
Let me just have you and Ms. Packard and Ms. Durkee, would you please raise your right hands? Ms. Durkee, I can't see you, so please tell me when your right hand is raised.
It's raised.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are going to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Ms. Packard?
Yes.
Ms. Durkee?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you both. All right. So, let's talk about the one of your objections says vacate any approval of the, it's not a final accounting, it's an interim accounting. And the court has not approved it, that's why we're having a hearing. All right, and you've had your more than 30 days to review it. So let's focus on the personal estate. They don't need to list, it just has to be what is in the inventory. The funds advanced to the estate. I would request that Wendy Ann and Victor at least create a list of the funds that you have advanced to cover estate expenses. I expect from what I'm looking at, it's primarily the real estate taxes and the and some payments to Ms. McCann.
And then the cremation, Your Honor.
And the cremation. But if you could detail those, I would appreciate that.
Your Honor, Roy was eligible for and wanted a military funeral. It would have been paid in full. Why did he not get it?
Because he never asked for one, Your Honor.
Oh, you are so full of it, Wendy. Our entire life.
There's not going to be an argument back and forth between you. Ms. Packard, I've asked you not to interrupt other people. I was speaking to your sister and asking her to just give a list of the funds advanced. I think she may have in another filing, but if you could just do that to file list of funds advanced. Okay. There's no way to know whether he requested a military funeral. At that point, Ms. Packard, as I understand from your prior filings, you were not in touch with your father.
Your Honor, our entire lives we were told that you only wanted two things when he died. He didn't want to die alone, and he wanted a military funeral. He felt he deserved that. Even when I wasn't in touch with him, when I was talking to Wendy's previous husband, he told me that Roy still wanted a military funeral.
Okay, when was that, Ms.
Before
Packard?
he died. I have never known anybody in the military to change their mind on that, Your Honor. I would love to see some, if if there are any that you know of, I'd love to talk to them.
So, Ms. Packard, as far as I'm concerned, the funeral bill was quite reasonable. And I don't know what's involved in a military funeral. However, I doubt it's completely free. There's probably a certain amount of funds allocated for one, but I have no idea because, I've seen a few accountings come through with military funeral and then, some small payment. But Ms. Durkee, Wendy Ann Durkee, you wanted to say something?
Your Honor, my first husband never spoke to Mrs. Packard about my dad's funeral wishes. She only brought up his name because he's deceased. And then there's no way to have a witness say, nope, that never happened.
And your first husband, when were you divorced or did he die?
No.
And what year was it?
My first husband died in 2011. Okay. My dad died in 2019.
So anything the first husband, it would be hearsay anyway, Ms. Packard. And here in the time, the court does have some discretion to admit hearsay, but if it was said in 2011, many things could have changed between 2011 and 2019. So I'm not going to hear anything else about the funeral.
You don't want to hear anything that has to do with proving anything that Wendy screwed up this whole time, Your Honor. You've been biased right from the start.
Okay.
I'd like to apologize.
Oh, quit sucking up, Wendy.
That's not how we were raised. It's not. She has untreated mental health issues.
Oh, Wendy,
okay,
please.
We're not going to get into dissing each other's mental health or anything else.
Mine
here.
actually are managed, Wendy. You should try it.
Okay. Ms. Packard, if you keep interrupting, I'm going to have you muted and then just call on you when I want to hear from you. Do you understand that, Ms. Packard? Ms. Packard? All right. So now there is a concern about the bill submitted by Ms. Durkee for her time. And I have reviewed that bill, and I do think that there are some things that are rather high on that bill. And we could also talk about the billing rate. So, Ms. Wendy Durkee, how did you come up with a billing rate of $45 an hour?
I was told that that's what the rate was, and that's what I charge for my seamstressing.
Okay, I've never heard of a fixed rate for doing the work unless you happen to have a special skill in doing that. So, Ms. McCann?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Durkee asked me, and I told her that I was seeing anything from 35 upwards of 75 for special circumstances. I also know people who are charging $3.50 an hour because they're lawyers. So I just felt that with all of the litigation, the fact she has to attend every hearing, trying to find his will, and the fact that she was not compensated for any of this, and it looked likely she wouldn't be compensated for any of this, that 45 was mid-range, and accountings are difficult to go through, and inventories were not easy in this case because it was, equipment. Equipment that had been